Ivan, welcome, brother.
Hey, hello.
Super excited to have you here, dude. It's as the time of this recording, I've said this in other case studies before, but as far as I'm aware, this is the highest appointment setting case study on record inside the RSA, which is I'm really excited about that. I think a lot of people who watch the YouTube channel, as well as like clients inside RSA, are going to get a ton of value out of this, especially because you've done it in a decent amount of time as well. Like, can you give guys a bit of insight to when you got started inside the community and high ticket sales in general and to where you are now?
Yeah, so I worked in corporate sales for about 6 months, roughly the same amount of, well, at the same time I joined the program. Um, yeah, so I worked there for about 6 months while I was just getting exposed, to the course, asking a bunch of questions, and I transitioned into remote sales about 4 or 5 months ago, and that's when I started the actual remote sales journey, you could say. Um, And then about 4 months after I hit that, 19K month, setting. High
Beautiful.
level overview for you.
High level overview. So 4 to 5 months, bit of sales experience, like in an SDR slash like cold calling role, right?
Yeah, just a setting role, SDR job or a BDR, pretty
Cool.
much.
Nice.
Standard stuff, really.
Amazing. So 4 to 5 months to get to 19, close to 20. I think it was like 19.6 or something there around.
Yeah, if you count a couple of bonuses, kind of, but
Okay.
straight commissions, it was about, 19, yeah.
Amazing, right? So I want to go through a little bit before, like what you did in your previous career, like SDR, BDR role, like cold calling, as opposed to now, and some of the key core differences, and just to take the guys back a little bit to give an insight of like what you did before making money online. What have you tried, if anything, just to give the guys a bit of a clearer picture.
Mm. Well, I didn't really try any, like, e-commerce, SSMA, not really sure what SSMA is, but, any of the business models, really. I just got into sales initially because I liked the idea of learning about human psychology and making money and being successful and winning, that sort of thing. So I got into sales for the sake of just like climbing the corporate ladder initially. That was the goal. So I worked as a cold caller selling vegetables to restaurant owners for about 6 months. So that
Wow.
was fun.
Quite an interesting product to sell compared to what you sell now, right?
Very much. Yeah. It was rough because I didn't get any training either. So I was just sort of freeballing it on my cold calls. So a painful 6 months there. Then, then I transitioned into like a slightly better corporate role. Actually, it
Mm.
was this period when I was interviewing for these better corporate roles that I came across the program. I was applying for a bunch of corporate roles in Manchester in the UK, um, and I was just getting rejected from them. I applied for like loads, and I was doing loads of interview practice. I got rejected from about three, four, five, six, which was a blessing really, because then I came across the course, or the program, and it just like broadened my horizons really. I just realized that there's a lot more money that can be made and a lot more freedom. Like if you had to think about what your dream job is, for me anyway, it would be high commissions, remote lifestyle, being able to work anywhere you want, um, live life on your own terms. All those things come into the equation. So that's the sort of role I have now, technically, you know,
Mm.
and the closing role I'll have in the future. So th- that's why I decided to sort of switch from corporate sales to this because this just seemed like a dream job, really, compared to corporate sales.
Nice. And
Yeah.
so you're working for, everyone who's watching this context, one of the biggest sales agencies in the space, right? You do really well in a really big company.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to know, to give these guys a bit of insight as well, like what you actually sell, how do you help people, just so people have like a broader picture of like what does you do and like what does you sell.
Yeah. Well, I'm a part of a sales agency, so it's like a umbrella. company, and there's like 60, I can't remember how many offers there are now, but about 50, 60 offers within the company. So initially they placed me on an offer, a real estate offer. Worked there selling real estate for about a month. Um, I just dialed a lot, and then they promoted me to a better offer, the best offer within the agency. So this is selling tax advice to high income Americans, like people who make anywhere between 250 to a mil or plus per year, who are paying a load in tax. So it's a very good offer. It's very easy to sell in a way because, you pay for the 16K service or 20K service, for example, but you save 50K. It's a no-brainer, right?
Nice. And
Yeah.
what's the ticket size for that as well?
So it's actually increasing in January. It's going to be 6K, 20K, and 40.
Nice. Yeah,
Very
cool.
nice.
So very, very high level consulting for, successful people.
Yeah.
And it's there's a wide range of offers you can sell in this industry that are like more B2C, like business opportunity, or like more B2B. And yours is kind of in the middle where you're selling to more of like an affluent demographic and you're selling to
Yeah.
quite high ticket as well, which for a lot of people listening to this as well, just so that guys have context. How old are you as well? Just so guys have a bit of background.
Turned 25 last month.
Nice. Right. So 25 speaking to super high level, really successful people, and you found you've had no issues doing that.
Not really. There's someone on the offer who's 17 or 16, doing
Super
the same
interesting.
job as me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be quite interesting to hear that for guys a little bit younger as well, like watching these interviews.
Mm.
Because it is a common question that's come up. Like, if I'm 18, 19, 20, 21, like, am I going to be viewed a bit differently when I come into this industry? I think as long as you hold your frame well, you ask the right questions, you position yourself as an expert and as authority, you're never going to have issues. Like, I've sold
Yeah.
$30,000 business coaching programs to, guys who do 1, 2, 3, 4 million a year, and I've got no idea what I'm talking about. I just know how to solve their problem, right? That's as
Mm.
specific as it gets.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's a super useful insight. And so, in terms of what separates you in getting the progress and progression you have in the industry in the time that you have as well, I think that's really, really valuable for a lot of guys watching, which is 4 to 5 months to get to 20K US a month appointment setting is ridiculous, right? That's, top of our class inside of RSA in terms of results we've got with appointment setting. We've spoken about this on group coaching calls inside the community as well, but I'd be curious to know, we can go on the practical side of things, but first of all, the mentality would be useful. What would you say your mentality has been to get to that point in such a short timeline and horizon? And what do you feel like separates you from other appointment setters that allows you to be like top on the leaderboard?
Mm, in terms of what's led me to, progress over the past like 5 months, like long term, it's mostly just being determined and making a decision to, progress. Because a lot of SDRs don't really have goals or clear paths in front of them, or at least I've seen that. Not so, a lot of people in the RSA do have that, if not all of them, which is good. But like when you go into actual offers, sometimes it's not so true. Um, because I speak to people sometimes and they're not really sure if they want to stay in the SDR role. They don't know if they want to get into closing. And when you don't have certainty which direction you want to go in, you're not going to dial. You're not going to dial as much as someone who is certain that they want to progress. So if you're in that state of like that limbo state for 3 months where you're not sure and you're not really dialing, you're not building a reputation, when it's crunch time and you're thinking, okay, maybe it's time to progress now, your manager's not going to promote you at all, you know? So I was thinking about this analogy the other day. I think it sounds cool. It's like your reputation's an invisible CV that you carry around with you. So if you don't dial a particular week or you just don't turn up sometimes, if you're just a bit sporadic and you're not so consistent with your dialing, dialing's a great example. because that's just the foundation of being a seller. You just need a good work ethic. Um, your managers kind of see that reputation. Your reputation, when you think of someone, their reputation's kind of attached to that. So it's the same thing when you want a promotion into closing or you want a better offer to go on. Um, Managers have to make a decision. And if your reputation isn't stellar or exceptional or better than the rest anyway, then you're not going to get promoted.
Mm.
You know,
So you think having more clarity around the outcomes you want and how you're going to progress there primarily.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
And so obviously you've risen to the top in a very, very big sales agency in this space, right? Some of the best. What work ethic, to give the guys an example, has been required to get to where you've gotten to, not only on the ramp up period, so like your learning process and like you getting your feet wet on an offer, in contrast to like what you actually do today to sustain
Mhm.
like the level of income that you do and the roles that you work?
Yeah. Well, it's very simple to understand how much work you have to put in. You just have to look around you, see what the top performer's doing, and just replicate that. You don't have to overthink it and tell yourself, oh, I have to work hard today, I have to put in more effort today, more motivation, more motivation. You just have to understand how many weekly dials is this person doing. Um, this is just an example, the dialing anyway, and just replicating that, you know. If it takes 200 a day, 240 a day, then just do 240. I was working pretty long hours in the beginning because when you're just getting started on an offer, dialing takes a bit longer because you're still getting used to the CRM and everything. So I was working like pretty much all day in the beginning for about a month or two. Then it got a little bit easier, but I was still dialing at a high level. Um, yeah. So the dialing's one example, but also, doing call recordings, rehearsing the product as well is important. Yeah, hope that
Cool.
answers the question.
Yeah, I think it's important to give the guys a bit of insight of to like what you do that sustains the levels of income that you're at. Because one thing on the YouTube channel and all of these interviews as well, I like to not be all doom and gloom, but really just kind of shed light on like what the work
Mhm.
that is required that it takes to get to the spot that you're at, but also what's also required to maintain that as well.
Yeah,
A lot of people have this false narrative these days as high ticket sales become more popular in 2025 for good reason, and I think is going to get even more popular in 2026. Um, a lot of people have brought this in people into the industry with the expectation that things are going to be easy or they're going to be fast or they're going to be short, but
yeah,
it can be possible, and you can do well realistically in a short timeline. I think making 10K plus a month in 5 to 7 months is a very short timeline, all things considered. But it's not what most people talk about. It's always like the 3 months or the 60 days or the 30 days or whatever else have you. So I think a lot of people are set up for failure. So that's
mhm,
why I think it's always important to establish from guys like yourself who are in the trenches right now, what's happening, what are you doing to sustain that, all type of good stuff.
yeah. That's why I joined the program initially when I was watching the case studies because they were so realistic, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Before you actually joined the program, how did you actually end up finding me? Obviously the case studies was a deciding factor, but like, how did you end up finding me? I can't remember exactly how you joined, but maybe you can remind me.
So the algorithm blessed me with Shelley's case study.
Right.
Shelley's case study. Then I kind of watched it, caught my attention, kind of watched the first 10 minutes, thought, this is a pretty long video. Let me put it away. Yeah, watch it. Let me
Yeah.
watch it again. Then it kinda kept on popping up in my algorithm even after I put it away. It was like, "Oh, you've only watched 10 minutes of this. You sure you don't wanna watch it again?" So I watched it again, carried on. Um, yeah, and then I watched, Kashi's, I think, Rahul's, all the main ones, and then I started going on a spree. I watched about 10, 15 of them, and by the 15th, I was already sold, so
Yeah. Did we end up having a call together or did you pay in the DMs? I can't remember.
Well, it was mainly by the DMs, but I wanted to speak to you before paying properly, just to speak to you over the phone. Then we had a
Yeah.
chat, and we tried to pay, but there were problems with my investments. I cashed out all my investments to pay for this.
Why do
So
you think you did that, right? Because I mean, I've come across people who, particularly in Christmas, after the New Year, after the holidays, had that objection recently. Funny enough, um, as well as people also as well like they want to leave their money in investments, S&P 500, stocks, crypto, wherever they have it. Like,
yeah,
what kind of drove you to liquidate that and put that into this? Because that's a big risk at the end of the day.
yeah, but if I leave it in my investments, there wasn't loads there. Like if there was tons there and it was making a good ROI per year, then yeah, fair enough. But if it's only like, I don't want to say the amount, but it's only yielding like 300, 600 a year, then the ROI I'll get from this is significantly higher. I've already paid it back pretty much, haven't I? Um, so that was why it's just kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If you're dedicated and you're gonna make it work, you'll pay it back, definitely.
Because I've spoken to people in the past who were a little bit hesitant to take like 10K or 7K that they have like in the stock market to invest in a skill set. And I think it's probably good to hear it from you, from someone who was in that exact position, because
Yeah,
in my opinion, I agree. If you invest into a skill set where your earning capability is much stronger, you then can invest and grow that portfolio even further. But if you're just trying to hope and pray with a small amount of injections or inflow each month, yeah, it might look great when you're in, 10, 20, 30 years down the line as it stacks, it compounds. But it will look much greater if, for example, in yourself, like 5 months to get to a 20K US a month earning potential opportunity, you know,
mm.
your investment portfolio is going to compound, much more effectively from there if you have the skill sets to grow your income to do that.
I know. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. It's just about accelerating your income sooner so it can compound sooner, right?
100%. And so, how is life different, man? So, obviously, to give the guys a bit of insight to what you do on a daily basis, obviously, you've done a lot of hard work to get to where you're at, but again, it takes a bit of work to maintain it. So,
Mm.
what does like your daily schedule look like? What are the hours you work? I mean, particularly for someone who's in the UK wanting to work US hours as well, I think it'd be good to
Yeah.
give a bit of insight there because you work that schedule. So, what does that look like? What's the work in you put on a daily basis at the moment?
Yeah, so my schedule's from 11 a.m., wake up around that time, and I go to bed at 3 a.m. So initially it was like 12 to 4, but I changed it because people don't pick up the phone at 8 p.m. in Pacific anyway, so I may as well go to sleep earlier. Um, yeah, so I'll walk you through my usual schedule. So I'll wake up, sometimes I'll go to the gym, sometimes I will attend some school calls with you guys. Or I'll do, call reviews, networking, and stuff like that. Or I did do a lot of networking during that period of the day in the beginning. Um, then I'll have a team meet around 3, or I do now these days anyway. I have had a team meet for the past 6 months at 3, so that's just kind of built into my muscle memory now. And then I'll start dialing it around. Well, depends how early I want to dial. I can dial from 4 p.m. Anytime between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. I'll start dialing. And then I'll dial up until I reach 200 dials or 240 dials, whatever my KPI is for the week. So in the beginning, my KPI was 5,000 dials for the month. So that's around, I can't remember how much per week, maybe like 1,200, 1,300. Um, and that's the amount of dials I needed to stand out from everyone else. So that was the standard. Like if I'm not going to make that number, it's just going to be very sad because I'm not going to progress in the company, isn't it? I'm just going to be stuck there forever. That
Hmm.
cycle. But yeah, I'll dial for like 6 hours, 7 hours till I reach the number. Initially, I would continue dialing and I would continue to do work after like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., but now I've stopped because my brain's a bit frazzled after dialing for 7, 8 hours.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. So
Mental.
the expected hours you can work, because a lot of UK clients I work with
Mm.
are looking to work US hours, obviously. What's like a typical expected like start finish time that you'd expect working US time zone UK, do you think?
Well, it's very flexible with this offer. Some offers are more rigid, but they're all on a spectrum, right? Which is the nice thing about this space. There's almost an infinite amount of jobs compared to corporate sales anyway. Maybe not infinite, but the good thing about working from the UK is that you can work a part-time job in the morning between the hours of 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. until 3, 4, 5 p.m. That's when the Eastern workday begins. Um, yeah, or Pacific workday. And then you can do them both if you want to, or at least do them both while you're transitioning, you
Mm,
know? So it is tough to do that. It isn't easy because, it's hard to find part-time jobs in the UK that will allow you to do that during those particular hours because corporate jobs and in-person jobs are usually a lot more rigid. Um, so I guess it's about finding a flexible remote company. Uh, yeah,
yeah,
better than
for sure.
working in Australia though, honestly.
Yes. Yeah, it's a bit different working in Australia, but for those that are watching as well, like I ask this question all the time, which is like, um, you know, how do I actually transition into this industry from my current full-time job? And with practically every client I work with, there's a very specific plan, particularly, if you're working full-time, ideally cutting back your hours to part time and then eventually replacing your income part time in the high ticket sales space and transitioning only when you've replaced, if not exceeded, what you did with the part time job that was originally full time. And then once you see that proof of concept, you eventually transition, is typically what I recommend to most guys looking at the space. Um, if you are working full time or part time hours watching this, it's pretty common that I work with like 90% of my clients are in that position. So it just takes a plan where you can transition out that's appropriate and would meet your needs. Doesn't mean you have to go into the industry and space instantly and all at once inappropriately or not inappropriately. Like just too early is probably the best thing that you can come up with a plan to transition appropriately rather than, you know, making stupid rash decisions of trying to like bet all the chips and go all in and just like risk your livelihood, right? There's actually a step-by-step plan if you know what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah. I think I was in the middle. I reduced my hours to part-time for certain reasons, which meant I could spend more time interviewing. And then, I had a lot more experience networking and doing interviews. So then I actually did take the leap fully, went into the job. So it was a bit of a risk, but it felt like the right thing to do. I had some savings because I'd been working in corporate for about 6 months, so that I would have been able to sustain myself for a while.
100%. I
Yeah.
think a big thing for a lot of people watching this is it's not a space most times where it's best to kind of have a 30-day runway and just trying to make it work out of that. It's not
No.
really a smart position. And that's why most guys I work with kind of join the RSA and then months thereafter they slowly transition, develop, understand the industry, and only transition when they're ready.
Yeah.
It's not like a thing where you just kind of jump balls deep and just jump in. It's usually a big risk to do that. It's not a smart way to do things.
Yeah.
Um, but if you were to kind of speak to someone who was like looking at this space, this industry, like 5, 6 months ago, even, like what would you tell someone that's looking to get into it, and what would you tell like a complete beginner about the space?
Mm, well, it's a lot more entrepreneurial than corporate sales, and you have to take a lot more ownership over your life and the way you conduct it. Um, because nobody's telling you to do your dials really. Nobody's really looking over your shoulder. And especially when you work from your bedroom or your living room or your kitchen, it's all on you. But it's actually a nice thing because it gives you a sense of agency over your life. You're making the choice to turn up to work. You're not begrudgingly getting out of bed and getting into a job you have to do, and that's not a nice feeling. So that emotion's just completely eliminated from my life now, which is good. Yeah, another thing is that the space is very, yeah, entrepreneurial. So you experience a lot more emotions, like a lot more doubt. You take a lot more risk, and there's a lot more uncertainty compared to regular corporate jobs. So those are the downsides of the industry. But if you've got a mentor, when you feel that doubt, that uncertainty, right? You can just go, I can just ask you, like, what should I do here? Or should I be feeling this way? Am I overthinking about this? Especially in the beginning, because there's tons of situations like this. And I was asking you tons of questions like that in the beginning.
Mm,
Um, and it just helps course correct you, not only like in the direction you should be going in, but also emotionally, like it gives you confidence that you're on the right track. Also, the community as well gives you confidence because you can see it
mm,
happen. You're not on
for
your own
sure.
anymore. You're not isolated. You've got like
Mm,
a support network, which is what you need.
yeah, I agree. And I think what really allows someone to have the speed of progression in the way that you have, and like all the case studies I have on the YouTube channel, is just having that rate of one-on-one proximity exposure of a community of people who are already doing this, full time, so that you can kind of lean on to a group of people who are where you want to be or have gotten to the results and transformation that you want, so
Mm.
that you can basically shorten the time that it takes to solve certain problems in the industry, whether it's like looking for roles, navigating roles, what to do with certain roles. I know, particularly with the company that you went to work with, I basically told you, dude, just like outwork everybody, right? That's the way that you progress in like these types of companies. You want to get noticed, you want to know the right people, but to do that, you need to prove yourself. Like you need to build a good reputation. So like just whatever the guy is doing next to you, do double, do triple, and that's exactly what you did. You progressed really fast in that company. So like having little pieces of advice like that, or someone that you can lean on to for support when things are a little bit uncertain or you are a little bit unsure, I think makes such the biggest difference, particularly in mentorship. That's at least how I've got the results with everything that I've done in my life. And I found that pretty much the same bit of feedback I get from every case study I film.
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of SDRs, and I love them, but they don't understand how they should progress. Um, and I was blessed to have that perspective when I joined. I probably still would have worked hard and still would have dialed more than anyone, but because I heard it from you as well, I approached it with a lot more conviction and certainty, and like I made sure that I dialed a lot.
100%. And so, what's your goal from here, right? You're now progressing from appointment setter to full cycle closer, right? So, tell us a little bit more about what that looks like heading into the new year and like what are the next steps for you from here?
Yeah, so in January, I'll be getting into full cycle closing. So taking the Zoom calls, I'll be setting these people for myself and closing them myself. So we're learning a bit more about the product, closing at the moment over Christmas. It's going to be a busy Christmas. Um, yeah, and then hopefully we'll make it onto the calendar, or we'll try and make it onto the calendar next year sometime. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's the plan.
And to give the guys an idea of like the progression of like what that looks like, I always love to ask these types of questions because it gives the guys an idea of like what the progression of opportunity is. Because
Yeah.
obviously, when you first started out, you didn't earn as much. 5 months in, you're the top setter in the offer that you're on at the moment. You're making great money, 20K US a month. With that next step, people who are on the inbound calendar, and for those that don't know what an inbound calendar is um, in Ivan's instance, he is setting his own leads and closing them, right, for this new role that he's going into. But eventually, there's the potential progression to having people do that for you completely, and you just take the sales calls in this instance. So, what's the highest earner as far as like people who are on that calendar, as well as like the average earner from what you've seen?
Well, the best guy last month made about 58K in a month. Um, on average, the three closers make like 20 to 30K though on an average basis. So
Pretty wild, right?
very wild.
Yeah. And as opposed to like the progression you have either in corporate sales or really any other job, really, the things that dictate your results and how much money you make isn't how long you've been working in a company necessarily. It's your positioning, your opportunity, your skill set, and the decisions you make around your career can allow you to propel super, 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 super far in
Yeah,
such a short time in the space industry, which is what I love about it so much. It's not some gimmicky make money online business model or anything like that specifically. Not to say any other business model is bad, but just to say that it's a skill set that you learn and it's an actual career you can progress in just without all the guardrails and normal regulation that most corporate companies have from what I've seen.
yeah. And there's a lot more offers out there when you're starting as well. Um, and yeah, like you said, it's just your career progression is just composed of a lot of decisions. And when you have someone helping you make those decisions, you progress faster, you progress, better.
Yeah, 100%. And if you don't have that person, it can take a lot longer, like I did personally, right? It took me a long time to get to where I was. Um, but in terms of your feedback on terms of the community for RSA in general, like what's the program structuring like? What's your general experience been as far as like being a part of the mentorship, just to give the guys a bit of a better picture in terms of what's involved and what it's like actually working with me in general.
Yeah, so it's very beginner friendly. The course in the beginning um, is really good, gives you a good understanding of the basics. I joined more so for the mentorship. The course was great, but it was mainly to be able to ask somebody for advice as I go. And I've had that 1,000 times over, honestly. I'm very, very grateful for that. Um, and that's a huge deal, honestly, just being responsive when I need to make these kind of decisions, which are usually time sensitive. Things move very, very quickly in this space. Um, Also, shout out to Lucas as well. He's been incredibly helpful. He takes these calls like you do um, multiple times a week as well, and he offers a different perspective. He's very experienced. You both have my best interest at heart, and you're stoked to see me win as well, which is a massive bonus. Um, yeah, and the good thing about the calls as well when you're new, the majority of the people on those calls are new, so they ask similar questions. You get an understanding of what you should be doing, even though you might not have questions, and you get to network with those people on those calls. And then, like 6 months down the line, when you land offers, when you're doing well, like those are actual friendships, then, which is really cool to have as well.
Hmm. Nice one. No, it's great feedback. And so you've met quite a few people that, do you look to travel next year? Are you looking to go anywhere while working, or you looking to stay put where you're at?
We're going to do it eventually. I think we'll get into closing and pull it off first. We'll see how we get on. Eventually, though, that is the plan. We're going to do some traveling, see what's out there.
Nice, cool. And so you've met quite a few other members in the RSA in general, and built some good relationships. What have you found like the general person you met inside the RSA, like the caliber of the person, the quality, all that type of good stuff?
Yeah, I touched on it in the beginning, but people are more, dedicated. They know what they want because they watch the case studies. This is like a filter, basically. So, yeah, everybody's pretty similar. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody has high standards. Um, and it's a good bunch of people. I like it. Yeah.
So if you're watching this case study and you're in resonance with Ivan and his story and his work ethic and the expectations we've laid out, obviously you know what to do, right? But in case it isn't obvious already, like how likely would you be recommend RSA to friend or someone close to you as well as just like what would you say to someone who's sitting on the fence?
I mean, if you're dedicated and you know that you want to do this, and you feel like you can put in the work, then by all means, you know. 100%.
So it's primarily, as long as someone is willing to work hard and has good work ethic and they know they can commit and focus for a decent amount of time, not just 30, 60, 90 days, they're going to make it work, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Love it. And any final notes you want to finish on? Any little bit of value you have for the guys that are watching?
I honestly think I touched on most of it. I did have a couple of things to say, but I spoke about it during the call. So, yeah,
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that interview. I know I did. A lot of value from, again, today's date, our highest grossing appointment setter. So it's really, really cool to see some great insights there. And yeah, if you want to be like Ivan, you know where to go. Description, you can apply. Maybe we'll see if we can work together. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next one.
nice one.
Cool.